Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.
No breaks. No breaks. No fear. No fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Well, this week started with all 6 Premiership teams in action, some big scores going off as well across the country, and then leading up to this coming weekend when it's the big one.
I remember walking up that tunnel, walking out into the arena itself, and I just looked around and I thought, wow, this is pretty special, and that's never left me.
British Speedway legend and Eurosport commentator, one of the voices of Speedway, Kelvin Tatum, is with us in this episode. So look ahead to the 20th British Grand Prix and what that might have in store. And also look back on the action from Monday night. Huge wins for the Bellevue Aces and the Wolverhampton Wolves. And a very close run thing between the Sheffield Tigers and the Kings Lynn Stars. We'll hear reaction from all of those meetings. And we find out more about the Grand Prix in Cardiff from the man who's kind of like the ringmaster of the circus when it comes to the British Grand Prix and the Speedway Grand Prix Series. FIM SGP Race Director Phil Morris is going to be with us to give us a bit of an overview on how it's going to look, what you can expect from the weekend, what's in store, and a little bit more besides. All on the way on this week's episode of No Breaks, No Fear.
No breaks, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
It's almost like the few days before Christmas for British Speedway fans as we head into the big Cardiff weekend. It's been 3 long years, but almost time to put that right this weekend. And what a weekend we have in store. And 2 great guests for you today who I think are going to really help set the scene for this event that's actually celebrating its 20th anniversary, of course. I mean, we're sort of overdue the 20th anniversary celebrations. It should have been in 2020, but what with everything, it will finally happen. So Phil Morris, FIM Speedway Grand Prix Race Director, with us in a little while. And first, though, I'm very, very pleased to say someone who's seen, I think, pretty much every Cardiff Grand Prix, I think bar one. And you know his voice so well because he's talked you through many of the iconic moments of British Grand Prix history and, of course, beyond that in British Speedway as well. I'm very pleased to say our special guest is Kelvin Tatum. Hiya, Kelvin, and what a week we have ahead of us.
Yes, and you're dead right. You know, 3 years since we were in the Principality Stadium, so there's lots of excitement. We've got 4 representatives in the Grand Prix itself, all are very useful. I've got to believe that the British fans are very, very excited about that prospect. And yeah, you know, just reflecting on the previous Grand Prix I've been there, pretty much been to every one. So it's a special occasion. And I think it's one of those Grand Prix, the points are the same, whether you're in Tetro or in the Principality Stadium, wherever. But I guess if you win in the Principality Stadium, I think that's something that can make you feel immensely proud. That cauldron, that pressure, I think is something extra special.
Well, we'll talk much more about the British Grand Prix at Cardiff in the next part of this podcast. A lot more to come on that. But first of all, I want to look back on the action in the Premiership from Monday because, a big, big win at the National Speedway Stadium. Bellevue sending out another big statement of intent. 60-30, hammering of Premiership leaders Ipswich at the National Speedway Stadium. The Aces closed to within 2 points of the Witches with a match in hand and continue to register impressive scores on their home circuit. Got a number of interviews to bring you from this, not least Max Frick very soon, but he led the way for the Manchester side with 14 points. Skipper Brady Kurtz adding 11 plus 2, whilst Jason Doyle scored 9 for the visitors. New signing Rowan Tungate picking up 8. A big, big win, this one, Kelvin. Obviously, it was the top 2 in action. Did anybody see such a huge victory for the Aces on the cards, though?
No, I agree. I think that Ipswich have been fabulous this year. They've been masters of the last heat decider. They've been inspired by Jason Doyle. I was fully expecting that result to be much closer, much closer. You'd say that Bellevue had to be favourites on their home form, but I just sensed, looking at that fixture prior to last night's meeting, I expected a point on the road. They've been pretty good on the road. They've been pretty good everywhere, but they had some issues looking at it. I know Doyley had a couple of retirements, but nonetheless, you're right. You know, Bellevue at home at the moment, they're just a monster.
And Ipswich have had a great start to the season. Of course, some injuries have come in there, particularly most recently with Eric Riss. I suppose it's how they manage that, and they have made some signings to even things out recently with Aaron Summers and Rowan Tungate joining their lineup. But really, it is that point of the season where anything can happen now, and we're seeing injuries creep in all of the sides, really, in one form or another.
Yeah, injuries always play a part. You know, they can sort of upset the apple cart big time, or you get riders coming in and it kick-starts your season. We saw it with Paul years ago when they brought in Greg Hancock, and that got them going. And you know, it can go either way. But obviously, I've been working with Chris Lewis, so I was quite close to all of this. And with Eric, obviously, unfortunately, just beginning to find some form for Ipswich, and then breaking his ankle, he's broken his leg, I think. I'm not quite sure, but. Rowan Tungate coming back into British Speedway, you know, you just hope that he can hit the ground running, because as you rightly point out, it's a vital stage of the season. They've got momentum. The last thing they need now is for that to sort of just go on pause for a while. But they've got a little bit of breathing space because they're comfortably in the top four. They're going to make the playoffs. But I'm sure from everybody concerned, they'll want to keep on with the momentum they've got.
Well, in a moment we'll hear from Mark Lemon, but first let's hear from the man who finished top scorer for the Bellevue Aces on the night, Max Frick, speaking to Lee Wild.
Max, another fantastic performance at home for the Aces. Personally, good night for you as well?
Yeah, it was good. Unfortunately, I dropped the point, but I was trying hard behind, so it was a great night for everyone in the team. We rode really well, and I think we're expecting a lot from Ipswich tonight, and all the boys brought their A game, and were able to get another really good result.
Yeah, this was probably Bellevue's biggest test, or it was certainly billed as that, but Ipswich had some bad luck, didn't they?
Yeah, don't get me wrong, they had a bit of bad luck along the way. I think Doyley had a couple of engine failures, and a few other riders struggled on the night, so definitely good for us, a great result, but we definitely got to keep our eye out, come later in the league and stuff like that. If we're to race them again, I think they'll definitely want to redeem themselves.
What's the confidence like in the team around the National Speedway Stadium? Because everyone in that team seems to be able to beat everyone else. It's very balanced, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's riding really well in the team. Everyone's super equal and helping each other out with bikes and bits and pieces. So, it's great to see everyone lending a hand and helping out in the pits. It's a great team atmosphere, and a lot of banter and stuff like that amongst us all. So it's good. It's all lighthearted and good fun, and we enjoy racing here each week. So it's a big thing. Biggest weekend of the year, Cardiff weekend. How are preparations going for that? Yeah, it's good. It's going to be another super busy month for me. We've got a lot on, obviously Cardiff, GP qualifier, another GP. We've just come out of Speedway Nations, and plus I've got all three leagues, finishing up and starting playoffs and bits and pieces. So another super busy month for me, but it's, I'm enjoying it, and it's good fun, and I'm really looking forward to getting out there at Cardiff. Well, Max, best of luck for Saturday. Thank you. Right, thank you.
Yeah, one of the many riders who'll be lining up at the Principality Stadium, and much more about the Cardiff Grand Prix to come in just a while. First of all, though, let's hear from Mark Lemon, the Bellevue Aces team manager, also with Lee.
Really didn't know what to expect from Ipswich. They've been travelling so good, and rightly so. But we just, to be quite honest, when we spoke about on track walk, is just follow our own instincts and our game plan and the processes that we've put in place, and I think the boys pulled that off very, very well.
Wasn't easy early on though, they weren't really getting out the gates. They had some technical issues. How do you manage that as a team manager? Yeah,
it was quite a frustrating night, to be quite honest. It, the sort of troubles the boys are having pit side, you wouldn't actually think that was a scoreline would reflect. But I guess that shows the resilience in the boys. That they just kept working hard. Even the pit crews, we kind of sometimes forget about the pit crews, and they worked overtime tonight, just trying to get the bikes on track. But Ipswich had a few sort of issues too, with the stoppages and whatnot, which probably didn't help the scoreline. But once again, around the National Speedway Stadium, you're watching the racing. The scoreline really doesn't do it justice. You think it's a bit of a one-sided affair, and yeah, maybe it was, but the racing, the boys to get in front, on those last couple of laps, it's just outstanding.
How important is it to get some away form now? That's what we want, picking up points on the road.
Yeah, to be fair, I think that's a focus that we're looking at, and we're not concerned about it. I mean, obviously, when you get to the playoffs, you come to aggregate points, and if you can bang in 60 points, it's you don't have to do a whole bunch away. But we've been solid away, but we haven't actually been really a full team. The early doors, I don't think Max was riding particular well, and it's taken him a little while to settle back into British Speedway. He seems to have found his feet now. And Brady, obviously, he's growing in stature and confidence, and obviously Zagar's been a revelation for us. But I don't think that's the real heartbeat of the team. We've got the workman light with Charles and Jai and young Tom Brennan and Norrit Bladoon. They're improving, it seems like on a daily basis. And it's great to see, and it's great to see them really enjoying their racing.
Just a word for Tom, obviously he's going to be the SGP2 on Sunday. You must be tipping him for big things.
I'm tipping him to just keep calm and keep it on the track, because he has a tendency just to overthink things sometimes. But he's got a good counsel with him, and he's riding really well. We saw him racing the Speedway, the SON2, which was the under 21 Team Cup in Voyens last weekend, and he really excelled. He basically single-handed brought the Brotons home for Great Britain. But I expect him to keep progressing. Hopefully he'll just enjoy the occasion. But knowing Tom, he'll want first place.
Well, Mark, congratulations on tonight. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
As Lee Wild with Mark Lemon, the Bellevue Aces team manager. Obviously, he's not wanting to say it, Kelvin Tatum, but you've got to fancy that this could be the Aces' best chance in a long time of that ultimate silverware of the league title. Of course, it's all going to come down to the playoffs, but I don't think there'll be a huge queue of teams lining up to race Bellevue on their home circuit at this moment in time. And with that in mind, really, can they put that hoodoo to rest of winning the league title?
Yeah, they're the Neely team in recent years, and Mark obviously has been left very disappointed. He's had good sides, and they've lost momentum at the crucial times. They look awesome right now. I was up there doing a league match not so long ago, and they were, they've got their number one men really flying. Zagar coming into the team earlier in the season has sort of, certainly around the National Speedway Stadium, has been outstanding. And Brady Kurtz, Charles Wright, all these guys are absolutely flying. So, yes, you want to avoid them, because if you go down by 30 points, it puts you under enormous pressure. I don't think they're the greatest team on the road. So, but there's got to be damage limitation. If you get them, you don't want to get beat by more than 10.
Well, let's have some more reaction then, this time from the Ipswich side of the camp. Team manager Richie Hawkins first with Lee Wild.
Yeah, our worst performance of the season. Blighted by machinery troubles early on. Certainly weren't quick enough on the track. And, we got punished. Luckily, it's grand scheme of things, it's rather now than sort of in the playoffs. So, kind of halfway through, we decided to, concentrate more on the end of the season and trying to find something that works. And I think boys have found improvement. But, certainly not a good day.
I take it the minute the tax up ride happened the way it did with Doyle on the line, that was the end of the night for you as far as getting anything from it, wasn't it?
Yeah, really. I mean, we was getting ourselves in decent positions, but we weren't quick enough. So we certainly need to work on finding more speed in case we're back here later in the year when it really matters. I've already had machinery problems. I don't think he's had any all season till now. So does some of the other boys. So in that way disappointing, but positive. I thought Rowan was very good. So
I was going to say Rowan and then Aaron later on seemed to get themselves up together as well. So they will be the engine room in your side, won't they?
Yeah, like Aaron, he broke down in his first ride, and then he got himself together in his last two rides was very good or decent, and obviously Rowan on his first match back as a witch was he was probably our star rider.
All right, that's great. You can carry on.
Right.
Thanks, Ricky. No worries.
One of those nights where everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Tough technical night, wasn't it? Things going wrong with bikes. What do you do as a team manager in that situation? Is there anything you can say?
We had lots of machinery problems, which coupled with really when the bikes were going, they weren't quick enough. So we just chose then to try and work on things and work on ourselves and make sure that when we come here next time, if we do, that we'll be better prepared.
2 new signings. You must feel when they get bedded in at Vauxhall, you're going to be a very difficult proposition at home.
Yeah, I think obviously Rowan knows the place well. He's spent a lot of years riding for us, and he's our asset. So he slotted straight back in tonight. Was very good, and I'm sure Aaron, he's a very experienced rider. He just had machinery problems early on, and then you see in the last 2 rides. I know in Heat 14 he ended up running the last, but he was right in the mix. So I'm certainly nothing to concern me there.
So the Ipswich team manager, Richie Hawkins, with his thoughts. Of course, next up for the Witches, they take on the King's Lynn Stars at Vauxhall, but more about that to come in just a bit. Let's hear from a couple of the riders involved. First of all, new signing, Rowan Tungate with Lee Wild after that tricky start to life for him with the Witches this time round at the National Speedway Stadium.
Rowan, how delighted are you to be back in British Speedway?
Yeah, it's nice to be back and see a few familiar faces around and it's just nice to be back and something different that I'm being used to.
Yeah. So how long have you been looking to get back into British Speedway? Because I've seen a couple of social media posts saying you wanted to look for a British team.
The idea come to me more when I look at the calendar and it's starting to slow up in Poland and Sweden, and then they had their GP qualification so I had stuff prepared for the Grand Prix challenge and I was ready to go as soon as I got a call up, pretty much. So we acted pretty quick, and Chris and my mechanics really worked on it to get me here, and we did have a bit of a headache to do it all, but it all worked out how it should. So most importantly, I'm here, and that's the main thing.
How much do you think riding in Britain helps your form? Does it make you a better rider elsewhere?
I think just time on the bike is nice. I have enjoyed doing a little bit less, but 2-3 days a week for me is good. So I think it can only help me.
A few familiar faces in the team, a couple of fellow Aussies, that must help you.
Yeah, it's a few guys I'm friends with. I'm good friends with Troy and Doyley, so it's nice to be with them and we can have some fun.
What about Vauxhall as a home circuit, more technical track? You looking forward to getting to grips with that?
Yeah, it's a track I've raced before. I just need to find a good setup, and I think my engines maybe will be a little bit too strong for places like that. So it might take me a little bit to get adapted to, and then hopefully we can be on point and with a good setup by the playoffs.
You joined a team that's top of the league. You must be looking to add a medal to your collection.
Yeah, exactly. If I can help, I'll give it 100% and do my best. It's been a while since I've been in England, race in England, and I feel as a rider I've developed more now. So we can wait and see what happens.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Troy, tough night for all the Witches out there. Was it as bad as it looked?
I didn't even look at the score, man, but it's bad. It's not like, it's a write-off, really. Like, we all kind of seem to have a bad day together, yeah? So it is what it is, but just the last half of the meeting, we were just like, okay, we've lost this. Let's try and experiment with the bikes and see if we can find something, because we clearly know that we're going to meet them in the playoffs at some point, whether it's in a semi or a final or what have you. So we need to, when we come here next time, we need to be much better.
Do you think you did find something?
Do you?
Do you?
It's all top secret, mate. But obviously not the result we wanted. We've had a great season up until now, and when we win, no one will remember this.
Exactly. Still strong form at home at Vauxhall, isn't it? You must be looking forward to getting back there.
Yeah, looking forward to riding, full stop. The better team on the day one, and we can't take anything away from them. They rode well. But myself and a couple of guys, I've never seen us have so many breakdowns this year. It's just, I guess, unlucky, but it is what it is. You need to finish races to win races, and we broke down in a few. Even Doyley had a breakdown, so you can look at the score and see we won ourselves today, but it's not an excuse. They won, and they were better, so we just got to be better next time. And a bit of a wake-up call, really. In some, we know that we are good as a team, and we know that anybody can beat us, but we were kind of flying high at the top, and they just showed us that we're not too far out of reach. Yeah, so that's a good thing, and we'll put our heads down and get to work.
Cheers, Troy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and that job begins on Thursday when the Ipswich Witches host the Kings Lynn Stars. And as we're going to hear in a bit, actually, and we'll talk more about Kings Lynn shortly, Kelvin, that they've strengthened their own side as well. And for them, they're trying to keep the pressure up on the top four and show that they're not done yet. They're not giving up. And for Ipswich, of course, put the memory of Monday night out of their minds and crack on with a decent win at home would certainly get them back on course at the top.
Yeah, and it'll be that's a really interesting dynamic, because clearly Kings Lynn will be buoyed by the fact that they had a strong performance away from home. Ipswich obviously will want to forget Monday night very quickly indeed, and get back to winning ways at home. They've been, I say, rock solid. That's overstating it. They've been under pressure at home, and I would say at times they've been vulnerable. And, I remember talking to Chris, I said that, some of his fans are going to need some mental health support, because they had 2 last heat deciders there, because they went to a super heat not so long ago. So, of course, when you put it off, fans are absolutely fabulous, isn't it? They're overjoyed. But a lot of those meetings could have slipped away. So, I guess they are going to have to, I'm sure that Richie Hawkins, the team manager for the Witches, will be pointing this out to them, particularly in the dressing room before the night. Kings Lynn going into that meeting revamped, re-energised. That's going to be quite a tussle.
Well, next up, let's look at the action from Monmore Green, where Wolverhampton consolidated their top 4 position with a straightforward 62-28 win over a depleted Peterborough at Monmore. Wolves opening the meeting with 4 successive 5-1s and appearing on course for a landslide victory before a virtual one-man show from Panthers number 1 Chris Harris prevented a total rout. Harris won his last 4 rides to finish with a 17-point total out of his team's score of 28. Whilst for Wolves, Luke Becker with 13 plus 3, Steve Worrell with 13 plus 1 bonus, and Nick Morris on 11 plus 2 all piled up the points, and reserve Leon Flint adding 9 plus 3 as well. Now, on the way, we'll hear from Wolves boss Peter Adams. For you, Kelvin, are you surprised with how things have gone for Peterborough? Because, of course, last year's champions, Dad's Army, and it's all gone wrong this year.
Yeah, their season's never got going. Dad's Army that just absolutely just dominated it last year. It was a wonderful achievement. It's difficult to understand why it hasn't really got going this year. Obviously, Bjarne Pedersen retired, 1 or 2 little changes. It just shows you the difference between winning and losing can come down to just one element within the team. It can change the dynamic, and all of a sudden you're transformed into a league-winning side, and then the flip side of that is also true. This year, riders out of form, injuries. Michael Palmtoft not quite, he's had injury problems. Scotty Nichols not going quite as well as he did last year, where he was an inspiration in the final last year. I mean, that was a fantastic performance at Bellevue. And it looks like it's going to be one of those seasons possibly to forget.
Yeah, another tough night for Rob Lyon and his boys. Let's hear from the Peterborough team manager now with Dave Rowe.
I mean, when you've got half the team injured anyway and other issues, and everyone's racing on the same night, it is the impossible job, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much it is. It's challenging and frustrating and demotivating all at the same time, really. But that's Speedway, and that's the way the rules are, and you have to try and work within those rules and put out a competitive team where possible, I guess. But yeah, it's not easy.
Is there anything that can be done? Obviously, we have 6 teams in the league. Tonight they're all racing on the same night. Is it possible to arrange fixtures so that hopefully doesn't happen next year if we're still with 6 teams again?
I suppose it must be possible because there's fixtures, where not all 6 are racing. But whether you do it where you could just got 4 out of the 6 every time and not have 6 on any occasion, I don't know. I'm not a fixture compiler, but that's a possibility, I'm sure. Ideally, you need 8 teams in the league, but we all know the situation with riders at the moment, so that's unlikely. But at least if you had 7, and you'd at least have 7 other riders potentially to choose from if you got problems. But yeah, it's a conundrum. I think it's okay if it doesn't happen to you. Once it happens to you, then all of a sudden you'll realise it's a problem. And teams at the top that haven't suffered yet, I'm sure, are fully aware of that. But it is what it is. You know, we've been struggling with injuries, struggling with form, and it's all come at once, really. And it's a tad embarrassing, if I'm honest. But you know, the boys are putting the effort in, and you can't fault them for that. Bomber tonight was absolutely supreme again, and you know, it's the way it is. But we just got to keep going.
There's some relief after it was 24 after heat 4. You're looking at probably a 70-point score that Chris then got himself going in a few points from elsewhere. It wasn't quite as bad as it might have been.
No, that's right. It was. Should we say? Well, it wasn't satisfactory by any stretch. But given the side we had to put out, with all due respect, you know, we weren't expecting much more than 30, if I'm brutally honest. And what did we get? 28.
28.
So it was pretty much as I expected. So unfortunate, difficult for our fans. You know, I'm sure they're all frustrated as I am. But you know, I can only put out what I can put out, and hopefully we can put out a more recognisable 1-7 next Monday against Sheffield and turn in a home win, because we badly need it.
Presumably Scott will be back next week. Ulrich, though, obviously not. Palm Tree, question mark. Is that the situation at the moment?
Yeah, I think he's probably the only question mark, apart from Ulrich.
Yeah.
He's having more treatment this week, and you know, he's hoping to ride next Monday, but we'll see how he is at the end of the week. I think is the best course of action. Obviously we need to probably line a guest up. RR's just too much, if I'm honest. With the team the way they are, it's not fair. I think a guest is the best option. But I haven't looked to see who's racing next Monday.
You're the only match next Monday.
Are we?
There could be 4 teams to pick from.
So we could have some options there then, yeah. I think we probably would do that, to be fair, because you know, give the team, give it some solidity, give it some chance to try and win a home meeting, which is what we need to do for our fans.
So there's the Peterborough boss, Rob Lyon. What about his opposite number, Peter Adams, after Wolves romped home with that thumping win on Monday night? He's been speaking to Dave Rowe.
You know, they did the best they could with what they got, but all of our boys knew the importance of tonight, and you know, they were on it right from the start.
A bit more consistency being shown by both your reserves, like the ride from Drew Kemp in Heat 14 was very impressive.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks running now he's managed to win that race, and he's getting more dialed in around here now, and Leon was very accomplished as well, I thought, but there was strength in every department of the team. Just had far too much, you know, for a week in Peterborough.
As the Wolves boss, Peter Adams, chatting with Dave Rowe. Kelvin Tatum is with us. Kelvin, it was 5-6 weeks ago maybe that Peter Adams was talking about the reserve situation at Wolves and perhaps how they weren't getting as many points from reserve as maybe some of their other rivals are, who have got riders you could argue that shouldn't be riding at reserve. People like Eric Riss, of course, maybe one example with Ipswich, who was piling in the points at one point. But Peter Adams has stuck faith with his young lads, with Leon Flint and Drew Kemp. That corner certainly seems to have been turned now, and big performances this week from Drew Kemp and from Leon Flint, and right at the right time as far as Wolves are concerned as well.
Well, confidence plays a huge part, and quite clearly the faith that Peter Adams has, you know, bestowed on those 2 young lads is beginning to bear fruit. So that's to his credit, because we were at Wolverhampton not so long ago, and Drew Kemp actually only had 1 point from 4 rides, and he kept him in Heat 14, and I was astonished. And I just thought he must use Leon Flint, because Leon Flint had scored 6 points from his last 3 outings. And Drew Kemp popped off the start and won the meeting for him. And that type of faith, and then the rider delivering, I mean, they walk tall when they go out of the stadium and drive home. And there's no doubt that brings riders on in leaps and bounds. So I think it's rare now these days, but it's very refreshing. And to see Leon and Drew Kemp coming on is great, and long may it continue, because every country wants youngsters coming through, and Britain is very much in the same boat there. So yeah, good to see.
Well, let's hear from one of those riders in question now, a rider who is shaping up for a big weekend himself as a track reserve in the Speedway Grand Prix and Speedway Grand Prix 2 on Sunday. Leon Flint with Dave Rowe.
Leon, 9 paid 12, good night's work for you and the team.
Yeah, it was really good. Peterborough was a bit of a put together side tonight, but we can only beat what's put in front of us, and quite a good confidence booster for the likes of me and Drew. So hopefully we can keep the ball rolling and just keep it going for the rest of the home matches.
And a good weekend for you after your first senior maximum for Berwick at the weekend, and not far off one tonight in the Premiership.
Yeah, pretty gutted. That RR ride done me in, but if I looked at my programme rides, I would have had it, but oh well.
You mentioned you and Drew, and getting you two both consistent around this track can be so important when it comes to playoff time.
Yeah, that's a thing. You look at Kings Lynn now; they've got Jacobsen in at reserve, stuff like that, and there's no doubt that we both can do it. There's been too many occasions where, say, I've been going good and Drew's struggled, or Drew's been going good and I've struggled. So once we can both click together, I think we're a very dominant side.
And obviously scoring over 60 points with no Sam Masters. You're hoping to have Sam back as soon as possible, because that then makes you even stronger. Yeah,
exactly. Max could bet my house on it, probably would have maxed out tonight, so added more points to the grand total. But he was in the pits tonight, giving us a helping hand. So but like I say, we just need to start picking up more points on the road, and once that happens, then we're just one step closer to the playoffs.
Just a quick word about your weekend coming up. Big weekend coming up in Cardiff, with reserve places in both the GP and the GP2. I mean, I suppose as a rider you'd be desperate to actually race in these meetings, but to be there, to be part of the occasion, that must be really big for you.
Yeah, the Saturday meeting's just kind of like an experience thing, even just for the whole parade and stuff like that, it's going to be pretty cool. But a bit gutted not to be, getting amongst it on the Sunday. I don't know, who knows. I know there's a few lads injured that are meant to be in it that we don't know yet, so I'm just praying to God that that this weekend's performance and tonight's hopefully push me on over the edge to get a look in.
Presumably you've been to Cardiff and seen the atmosphere when the riders get announced. I mean, it's something massive.
Yeah, it'd be pretty special. Obviously, anyone's dream, especially being a British youngsters, to be there. Obviously, I'm not going to tick it off the bucket list yet, as I want to get there in my standard. But hopefully when I do get there, or if I get there, I've got a bit more insight on what to expect and what an experience it should be.
There's Leon Flint, and good luck to Leon at Cardiff. Of course, he's going to be track reserve, as I say, at both of those meetings. And you never know, he might get a starring role, and I'm sure there'll be a big roar if he does hit the track. He's had a great season so far. Kelvin, as far as Wolves are concerned, I mean, we heard from Peter Adams before, and I don't think there's a more experienced team manager in British Speedway than Peter Adams, who's been there, seen it, done it. And he knows, and he said right from the start this season, that it's not about what happens in June or July. It's all about getting in the playoffs at this point. That's all that matters. And then from there on, that's when the real work begins. And you can see Wolves, as they always do, start slowly, but getting that momentum going now at this stage of the season.
Yeah, I think there was a line that we were using on Eurosport a few weeks ago when we were there, that they were actually a little bit vulnerable at home. And I think he bristled a little bit about that, Pete, because I don't think it was particularly dire, their home form. But nonetheless, Ipswich had beaten them twice, and they wouldn't have enjoyed that, of course not. But the fact of the matter is that they've got a good-looking side. They've got a massive Australian influence. Ryan Douglas, Nick Morris and Sam Masters in particular are the backbone of the team. So you can't rule them out. And regarding momentum coming into playoffs, it's absolutely massive. I can remember Coventry finishing like maybe 20 points behind the qualifying table. The top, it might have been Poole or something like that. I'm getting on a bit now, so my memory fades a wee bit. But to me, all of a sudden, you've got a situation where if you get on a roll at the right time, you've got a fit team, motivated team, then the world's your oyster. So he knows what it takes.
Well, another side who really started off as favourites, actually, at the beginning of this season are Sheffield, who themselves took a big step towards playoff qualification with a significant 48-42 home win over Kings Lynn. It was a result that moved the Tigers 13 points ahead of the Norfolk side, with their closest challengers outside the top four, and had to settle for just one league point on the night, despite making a flying start to go 12-6 up. Jack Holder and captain Kyle Howarth hit double figures for the Overton side, with 12 and 10 points respectively. The latter producing a storming effort to win Heat 14, whilst recent Kings Lynn stars signing Nikolai Clint racked up 13, with Thomas Jorgensen adding a further 10 plus 3. We'll hear from the Sheffield manager Simon Stead and also the Stars boss Alex Brady shortly. Kelvin, as I mentioned, Sheffield started the season as one of the favourites. They've not had as many meetings as perhaps their rivals because of one thing and another. There's been work going on at Overton, so they've not had as many home meetings. But good now that they get a run of meetings at home. But maybe this meeting with Kings Lynn a little bit too close for comfort as far as Steady's concerned.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think Steady's been frustrated in the fact that they've had an interrupted season. Momentum and continuity of fixtures is always something that gets discussed these days. And there's no doubt as a rider, you want to be riding every Thursday night. You get into that routine, you feel comfortable, the track and everything else. When you have a break for whatever reason, whether it's work on the stadium, weather, whatever it is, that's not ideal. And I think that Kings Lynn, fair play to Kings Lynn, because they could have thrown the towel in, but they haven't. And they've signed 2 riders. I think Freddie Jakobsen's also coming in, or is in, but Nikolai Clint is a proven performer in Britain. So mathematically they can still make it, so they're keen to try and do it. They had a disastrous season last year, and they're keen to try and keep their fans on side, and they are doing that. They seem to be doing something. So, but Sheffield are a good side. Adam Ellis isn't going as well as he should be. I think he's frustrated about that. Jack Holder, of course, is pretty solid, but there's no doubt that I don't think Sheffield are quite riding at their full potential.
Well, let's hear from the Sheffield Tigers team manager Simon Stead with Ryan Guest.
Well, Simon, that was certainly a hard-fought victory tonight against Kings Lynn.
Yeah, very, very difficult meeting. They came and gave us a real tough match. So fair play to them. They came and made it difficult for us. I was always reasonably confident that when the gate change swing came, that we could get some points on the board and turn things round, which we did. But it was tough. They all did their bit. We had a couple of issues early on, and the gate positions didn't help. But ultimately, we got the job done, which pretty much does what we needed it to do. But of course, we'd like to strengthen up. Doesn't help when you get paid four points from RR, which is not enough really, and it's difficult to manage when obviously you've only got Kyle in the reserves. So a tough match, but we got the job done, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, when you look at the final scorecard as well, looking down the individuals, obviously every point crucial in the end, but particularly down at reserve seems to be the key difference between the two sides tonight. They only got 3, 11 for your boys, and a top scorer of the season for Connor Mountain with 7-1.
Yeah, I thought he rode really well tonight, Connor, and it was probably a little bit unfortunate that he didn't get another ride actually with the way he was going. So I had a good chat with him, and he's in a good vein of form at the moment, which is great for us, obviously going into a very important time of the season with some really important fixtures coming up. So he feels good about things, so let's hope we can keep that moving forward, because obviously that strength at reserve is going to be really important when it comes down to the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, I mentioned for skipper Kyle Howarth as well, had 2 tough first rides, just 1 point from those, turned things around to finish off with 3 straight wins, and what a match-winning ride it was in Heat 14 as well.
It's unbelievable, that ride itself was worth the admission money, wasn't it? It was just super. Best ride from Kyle round here that I've seen for a while, and that's no disrespect, because I've seen him have many good races round here, but that was something special, and just shows his commitment to the team and to the club, because he was desperate to go out and win that and give us a bit of breathing space.
And just finally, feels like a significant result as well. Obviously, taking the 3 points. I know Kings Lynn managed to get one. Nevertheless, it extends that gap for over the Kings Lynn just outside the playoff places.
Yeah, that's right. And that's, we would have liked to have sent them home with nothing, but probably looking at the scorecard throughout the meeting, them going home with 1 point is probably fair as well. But it was more important for us to get 3 points than for them. To get whether they got 0 or 1, that didn't really matter. What we really needed to do was make sure we got the 3.
Many thanks as always, Stead.
Cheers, Ray.
Sheffield team manager Simon Stead. What about his opposite number, Alex Brady, team manager of the Kings Lynn Stars? No doubt thinking this was perhaps an opportunity missed. Let's find out. He's been chatting with Ryan as well. Here's Alex Brady.
Having to settle for a consolation league point here at Sheffield, certainly worthy of that, if not more, here tonight.
Yeah, I felt so. I felt there was a couple of decisions that didn't go our way, notably Heat 13 with Richard Lawson doing exactly what had happened a couple of heats before with Adam Ellis and Carl Howarth even having a laugh at me saying he jumped to start in Heat 9 as well. But yeah, sometimes these things go your way, sometimes they don't, and it's not the first time that this referee's let us down, and I'm sure it won't be the last either, but there you go.
There you go, indeed. Looking at the way the meeting panned out, particularly early on, having that lead over the Tigers as well, does this feel like it's another meeting on the road that's got away from the Stars?
Massively, yeah. I was just saying to the boys there, Heat 3 after being 6 points up feels a long time ago now. Yeah, we made some silly decisions and didn't stick it in the dirt often enough, and getting fresh air was key tonight, and we didn't do that often enough as well. I mean, Nikolai was a class above most, and Pickering and Jorgensen were excellent too, and Richie was good value for his points as well. But we were lacking a little bit down at reserve. Obviously, you see the scores between the two, the difference between the two, and also Richie didn't have his best night either. But yeah, it does feel like a missed opportunity tonight.
Yeah, a big night in the Premiership as well. Obviously, Sheffield now 13 points clear of yourselves. Wolverhampton winning at home as well. So where do the Stars go from here?
We need to win on Thursday night. It's as simple as that. I mean, we've been saying it all season long. We need the season to get going. And for whatever reason, it's been stuttering and not being able to do so. I mean, the green shoots are there for us. Obviously, Freddie won't have another meeting like that, I'm sure. Fred won't have another meeting like that, I'm sure. But yeah, he just struggled tonight a little bit. Fresh over here, riding fresh engine and things like that. So Thursday night is crucial. But yeah, we just need to win as many as the possible meetings we can between now and the end of the year and hope for the best. And obviously, still cup final to look forward to, which obviously tonight is a good dress rehearsal for.
Yeah, certainly. Just looking at the positives, you mentioned Nikolai Clint, top scored at home to Ipswich last Thursday, dropping 2 points here tonight and showing plenty of speed. So, like you say, he's certainly been a great addition early doors.
Definitely, we knew he would be. And it's obviously all the more frustrating that we've had to struggle for 6 weeks without either him or Niels. And I do genuinely believe it would be a slightly different story in our season if we had one or perhaps even both available to us during that time. But yeah, he's excellent, and I said he'd bring professionalism and everything to the team, which he's done. But yeah, we need all 7 firing. It's as simple as that.
Yep. Just finally, a very quick word. Obviously, you made a second change, as you've touched upon. Frederick Jakobsen coming in at reserve in place of Lewis Kerr, and obviously with the long connection he's got with Kings Lynn, that mustn't have been the easiest decision to make.
No, not at all. I mean, Louis is someone I get on a personal level with incredibly well. In fact, spending this weekend with him in a box in Cardiff. But yeah, it was a difficult decision. But it was a mutual one. Louis suggested to me that he felt it was the right time for him to leave as well, which was obviously made my decision slightly easier. But yeah, it's a shame. He's had a long affinity with Kings Lynn, and he's someone he's looked after me a lot in my time as team manager. In the 13 months or so. In fact, first meeting here I came to in Sheffield. But yeah, it's disappointing to see him go. I'm sure he'll go on to good things elsewhere and finish the season strong at Red Car. We need to focus on the 7 we've got, and obviously on to next season as well.
Yeah, many thanks for speaking to us as always, Alex.
Cheers, Ryan. Thanks, mate.
There's the Kings Lynn Stars team manager, Alex Brady. Kelvin Tatum, you've already touched on this, but Kings Lynn, credit to them, they're not throwing in the towel, they're not giving up. They've made some big changes, and certainly Nikolai Clint being the main one of those who contributed a lot of points on Monday, top scorer for the Kings Lynn Stars, and they're keeping the pressure up and certainly keeping the leading pack on their toes.
Yeah, that's right. They've got fixtures in hand, so they've taken advantage of that by being able to sign a couple of riders and revamp their team. They've got a leader in Josh Pickering who never knows when to give up. And I think that never say die mentality is running through the club, whether it be management or the team. So yes, you're right. Particularly 3rd and 4th place in the top 4 at the moment. They don't want to be looking too hard over their shoulder. So there's work to be done. They can't take their foot off the throttle because actions speak louder than words. and there's no doubt that Kings Lynn's actions mean that they are desperate to try and make the top 4.
Well, one of those signings is Nikolai Clint, himself a former Sheffield rider, of course, from a few seasons ago, back in British Speedway once again after a bit of an absence, and certainly seems to be taking no time whatsoever settling back into the old routine, scoring 13 at Ollerton on Monday, and he's been chatting with Ryan Guest.
Particularly after leading early doors by 6 points, that must be a bit of a hard one to take for Kings Lynn this evening.
Yeah, definitely. We was up for it before the meeting started. We knew that we had a shot at winning here, especially with Fred at reserve. But I think he was a victim of not riding in England for a long time. I'm the same, but obviously he only rode half a season for Poole, so I would say, got more experience of what you need equipment-wise and stuff, and he took some of his stuff over from Poland, which is way too strong. And you could see that he was just standing still in the starts. It's not because he was slow. And then Richard had an off night by his standards, but I think we pushed them hard. They came good towards the end when the track got slicker. We just got to look forward for Thursday.
Yeah, it was a big ask before you joined the Stars to get into the playoffs, even tougher now.
Yeah, for sure, but it's not over till the fat lady sings, like they say. We got 2 also coming here, 3 possible away wins, and if we can learn from today for next time we're here, and I'm pretty sure the outcome would be different. And then now we've got Freddie at reserve at home, we should be able to win all home meetings.
Yeah, for yourself, only 2 meetings down. Nevertheless, glad to be back in British Speedway.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I'm disappointed that we didn't win the other night. We wasn't good enough as a team, and I had a few problems with my clutches. But like I said many times, I love riding England, and I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, certainly seem to have settled in instantly. Top scored at home on last Thursday as well for the Stars. 13 points here at Sheffield as well, so settling back in nicely.
Yeah, just need to keep it going. We got some tough away meetings coming up now. Tough meetings away at Ipswich and home to Bellevue. So 1 meeting at a time, and then we'll see what happens at the end of the season.
Yeah, and just finally, just looking over in the pits tonight here at Sheffield as well. You might have only joined the team last week. Nevertheless, you were rallying the troops around, pointing things out after you came back in after each race as well. And certainly that leadership can go a long way in the team.
Yeah, I think we've got a good team. Obviously Josh is captain, but I don't think we have one captain. I think we have 7 captains, because everyone is helping each other. And obviously when you've been out and you think the track is a certain way, or you find a good line, then you want to pass that information on, and everyone is doing it, even from Josh down to Fred. So I'm very happy to be here. It's a good bunch of guys, and I think we can make the playoffs.
Many thanks for speaking to us, Nick.
No problem.
Never say never as far as the Kings Lynn Stars and Nikolai Clint is concerned, and they are keeping the pressure up. They're on 13 points themselves, but they're also 13 points behind the next place side, Sheffield Tigers, in 4th. But you never know, the second half of the season, they've still got 7 matches or so left. Get on a roll, you just never know. So all they can do is win their matches and just see how things pan out. But that certainly seems to be the mission for the Kings Lynn Stars. The league table as it stands then, Ipswich remain top, despite that hammering at the hand of the Bellevue Aces, but they're on 31 points. Bellevue are second with a match in hand over Ipswich on 29 points. Wolverhampton in third on 27 points. Sheffield Tigers in 4th. They've only ridden 12 meetings, which is less than any other club in the Premiership so far, and they're on 26 points. Kings Lynn 5th on 13 points, having ridden 13, and Peterborough Panthers bottom, 14 meetings ridden and 10 points. And the next match will be on Thursday, Ipswich versus Kings Lynn, and that's how things stack up in the Premiership for the course of this week. And then looking ahead to next week, of course, there's only the one fixture in the Premiership next week on Monday, and that's Peterborough versus Sheffield, with a 7:30 start time there. If I was to ask you, Kelvin, how do you see all this panning out? I don't want to put your nose out of joint, but what's your hunch on your favourites for the Premiership so far?
It's Bellevue. Bellevue are obviously a side that are just blowing everybody away. I think Mark Lemon's issue right now is actually just to keep his team on his feet on the ground, because if they beat somebody by 30 points, whether it be the semi-final or the final, they're almost guaranteed to win. And he must be getting very excited, but also nervous at the same time that he doesn't lose somebody. So you'd be foolish to back against Bellevue right now. They are the form side, but Ipswich, I think, have surprised us all. I don't think that they were looked upon as a team that were going to win the league. And you can never underestimate the influence of a rider like Doyle that's come into the side and loves riding in the UK. And clearly, if I was a young rider in Ipswich and I'm looking at that fella going out in Heat 1 and absolutely riding and stretching the throttle cable, you don't want to let him down. So you've got that dynamic. But right now, I think Bellevue are probably due. I'm just upset everybody else in the top four.
I don't think Mark Lemon will be complaining, so I think you'll be all right there. But let's see if it all comes to pass. Kelvin Tatum, our guest, here on No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast. And next, well, we begin the build-up for the British Grand Prix in Cardiff on Saturday, celebrating its 20th year. Kelvin Tatum has seen, I think, all but one of them, he said earlier, and we'll be looking back on some of Kelvin's highlights of the last 20 years, as well as looking ahead to the 2022 event, which is going to be massive, maybe even the biggest yet, with 4 British riders in the lineup and 2 great track reserves as well, who'll be itching to get their chance. And then still to come in the next part after this, we will be speaking with Phil Morris, FIM Race Director for the Speedway Grand Prix, to get an update on how things are going from his point of view. So that's all on the way on No Breaks, No Fear.
No Breaks, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome back. I'm Ian Brannan. We begin the build-up to the 2022 British Speedway Grand Prix in this part, and later we'll be joined by Phil Morris, Race Director of the Grand Prix Series, to let us know about the preparations and what the day's going to look like for you if you're going to be going there this year. But right now, we're going to begin that build-up, and Kelvin Tatum is with us. Kelvin has witnessed so many of the great races at the British Speedway Grand Prix over the years, and of course a lot of that was done alongside Nigel Pearson, and clearly your partnership with Nigel was, just as close as they come. You worked together for years. It's not just the commentary boxes, it becomes a way of life, and a huge shock for everyone involved with the sport. I can't imagine what it must have been like for yourself, and then to have that decision as to what happens next, and now you have taken over that role. You become the lead commentator, and I think people are just full of admiration for you for continuing it, and not just that, but starting to make it your own as well now. But I'm sure that there can't be a day when you're sat there doing the commentary, wondering what Nigel would say, or having him in the back of your mind.
Yes, he is very much in the back of my mind. And I wonder what he would make of me doing the job. I think he would be quite critical. I know him too well. But yes, it was a massive shock. What I would like to say, I haven't had the opportunity to say it very much or at all, is that everybody's been extraordinarily generous and kind. And that I'm very grateful for. I didn't fully appreciate quite how people viewed us. I think because you're in it, and we were obviously quite clearly we'd become very good friends, and we worked together, and there was a chemistry between us that I think is rare and special. And initially, Ian, I didn't want to carry on. I didn't really want to do it, but I was encouraged by Kerry, his wife, and my own wife and also Eurosport were extremely supportive. And basically it gave me an open book. They just said to me, whatever you want to do, you can do. So I've cracked on. So yeah, I hope I'm doing him proud. I'm thankful that people are understanding. It was a challenge, obviously. It was my decision to use new people. I didn't want to try and replicate what we had before. I just didn't think that was going to be achievable. Nigel's gone. I can't then just hanker after trying to recapture something that you probably would never be able to achieve. I just pitched an idea that I think we need to hear from younger riders, present day riders, hear how they speak, hear their language, how they think about things. That puts more pressure on me because obviously you're dealing with more inexperienced broadcasters. But because I've ridden, I just thought I can talk their language and help them and get the goods from them. And I'd like to think that that's working. And my relationship with Chris Louis is brilliant. You know, I must say Chris is somebody I trusted. He was my choice right from the word go. He's intelligent. He's done a lot of telly. And I knew that he would be rock solid with me in the Grand Prix, and so it's proving.
No, you're doing a cracking job, Kelvin. It's not an easy thing to do, commentary. I think it's probably one of the hardest disciplines of broadcasting that there is because everything happens so quickly and you've got to find the words. And people always say you've got a catchphrase or whatever, but you need that catchphrase to buy you the time to catch up in your mind with what's going on and work out who's who, especially when they've all got race suits on that match. It's really, really difficult. And all power to you for getting out there and, you know, standing up on national TV, international TV at a time when, you know, many people would have understood if you'd have, you know, wanted to walk away. But I think people are thankful that your voice is still part of that, you know, and people can share that moment with you.
Yeah, that's kind of you to say. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you. I would say that the Speedway of Nations was the most challenging broadcasting I've done as a lead commentator, because I couldn't see riders, I couldn't see the names, and obviously getting information about changes and so forth was difficult. And a lot of that was done on the hoof, so mistakes were made, but it was very difficult, and our commentary position was just in front of the riders. If we'd been just behind the riders, that would have made life a lot easier because you could have seen their numbers. But no, it was. Yeah, and as I say, I fancied I had the opportunity. Nigel said to me on more than one occasion, Kelvin, you're no longer just the colour. We both commentate. When we were doing it, we both commentated. I never realised it, but that's what he was telling me. And we did. We just bounced off each other. So I wanted to give it a go, and nobody's given me the boot yet. So I'm genuinely touched by people being complimentary about what we're trying to achieve.
And now, of course, this weekend, the focal point of, I think, for many, the whole Grand Prix series, but certainly Speedway in this country, and I say an event that we've missed for so long, an event that belatedly is celebrating its 20th anniversary as well in Cardiff, which has provided such a stage for so many brilliant moments in international speedway. What would be your pick when you think back of the years that you've been in? I think you said you've been to all bar one of the events in Cardiff. What are the great moments that you think back to? I bet I can guess one of them, and it's probably many people's, and the one in 2007, but there are many others as well.
Well, I think the first time we went there, the very first year was just 2001. I mean, I couldn't believe that we were going to have a Speedway meeting in such a grand arena. And just that stadium, the infrastructure, middle of the town, it just seemed, wow, this is moving on. And it was just, took your breath away. I walked in there before practice started. It was quiet. I remember walking up that tunnel, walking out into the arena itself. And I just looked around and I thought, wow, this is pretty special. And that's never left me. I still walk up that tunnel and I still feel something pretty special when I walk in that stadium. Of course, 2007 will be written in folklore. I mean, Chris Harris's, Bomber Harris's performance that night was extraordinary. Because I think, from memory, he went to the tapes 9 times with restarts and everything. Track was difficult. And the way he did it to pass Greg Hancock, he broke Greg Hancock's heart coming out of that last corner to steal the win. And it was quite extraordinary. I think, Tony Ricardson did some pretty spectacular things around there. I like the way he won there, the Wall of Death and all the rest of it. That was pretty fabulous. We're waiting for another British win. Could get one on Saturday, that'd be pretty special. I think Jason Crump's performances, I can remember Jason Crump having an absolute nightmare where I think he was excluded 3 times in one Grand Prix, and then he came back the next year and pretty much cleaned up. So, yes, we've seen and experienced some incredible speedway moments in the Principality, and I'd like to think that Saturday will be no different.
And yes, Saturday is going to be a major event. And of course, we've all been starved of this event since 2019 when it last took place because of obvious reasons. But what a way to come back with 4 British riders lining up. And we've got 2, I think, probably the best quality track reserves that we've had in a long time in Leon Flint and Tom Brennan, who are going to be there in case anything happens on the day. So potentially 6 British riders heading out there, and just that we know that roar that you get when the riders hit the track, and particularly if they win. We've seen it a couple of times when the British riders win, the place just goes berserk, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and it's that's what makes it extra special. You get this partisan crowd. They're a fair crowd because obviously they still have relationships with other riders, but there's no doubt that the Union Jack flags are waving, the air horns are blasting. And British success is something that is royally appreciated. We've got 4 genuine chances in Cardiff this weekend. I think I do hope that Ty Wolfend is now back to full strength and fitness. Robert Lambert has made a final. He's making semi-finals. Dan Bewley, I think, is a lot of people's favourite. I think Dan is looking like he could potentially, if he makes a final, then he can win it. I don't think he'll be fazed by it. He seems remarkably relaxed and laid back. And of course then you've got Adam. Adam isn't in the greatest of form, but on his day he's fast. So I'm sure he'll relish the challenge. And I think with all the debacle that went on with the British final and the rain off, I think it was probably a decent decision for him to be included as well. And young Tom Brennan, like Tom, he's going to ride in the SGP2 on the Sunday, but if he gets a chance, Brennan's coming on big time. And I think it was a shame that he wasn't in the SGP2 series as a permanent wildcard this year because it's his last chance. But Brennan is certainly a rider that seems to be going in the right way.
It may well fire him up as well, but I think we've seen that again, as we mentioned with Leon Flint. I think Tom has come on a lot, through the course even of this season so far. And I think now that he's getting the chance to be involved in this sort of level of event, and probably since the Speedway of Nations win last year, that we've seen him move on to the next level and feel that this kind of life is achievable, because I guess once you have a taste of that, you want more of it, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And if you're that way, if you're wired that way, then obviously if you're ambitious, then you want more of it. You're right. So, and also I think what happens is that once you've got into that and you've done reasonably well, you suddenly realise these guys aren't superhuman. They are the same as you, and it comes down to your mental aptitude, your desire, and if you've got that, then why can't I succeed? And he's got good people around him. His father, obviously, is going to be, his stepfather rather, is going to be Martin Dugard. He's going to be very supportive in every way. He's got a very experienced mechanic with him in Craig Cummings. So he's got a lot of the pieces of the jigsaw coming together nicely, Tom Brennan. And I don't see any reason why he shouldn't keep improving.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to that. And you have actually ridden the Cardiff track. I remember a few years ago, was it with Sky or BT, where you got the chance to go out there? What sort of track is it? How does it sort of compare to what certainly the British riders would be used to? I think it does sort of feel like a fairly British shape as far as the track goes, rather than it's not a big, massive, humongous affair like we have in Poland. It's quite we've got a mixture of technicality in it there.
Yes, it's a strange one because when you first look at it, Ian, it looks quite small. In actual fact, on the length of the track, it isn't very big at all. But because of the way it's set up, it has very long corners and short straights. So actually it rides really fast. and you end up using a bike setup that is actually probably for a big fast track, because you can actually use a gear ratio there that allows you to carry the speed. Technically wise, it's narrow going in the corners, so starting is difficult, and you've got to be very precise on if you're going to make an effort. We've seen guys, particularly in turn 3, where they run out of room when they dive in deep going in there. They get hooked up in the dirt and they get sucked into the air fence. So your judgment needs to be absolutely spot on. You need a fast bike there. You really do. I think an element that a lot of people don't fully appreciate, when the roof is shut, you get a lot of people in there, sucks all the oxygen out of the air. Bikes don't run quite the same, so you need to be savvy and understand what you need to do to get your performance out of your equipment. But there's no doubt that when British guys go there, they don't fear it. They don't fear it at all. But I also see, we've seen Janowski win there, we've seen plenty of European winners. So I do sense that because it rides fast, that it's actually a pretty level playing field. It's not like Wolverhampton. If we had a Grand Prix at Wolverhampton, then I think things could be very different indeed. But certainly I think that it's a fair track, and Ollie Olsen, who puts the track down in recent times, has done a pretty good job.
And I know that some riders have said in the past that, you know, the noise of the crowd in the stadium can be such that they can't actually hear the bike revving on the start line. I think it was David Howe I spoke to, and he said when he was there, the noise from the stadium, the air horns, whatever, he was on the start line and just didn't know that he thought his bike had stopped, or it might not be him, but someone said they thought the machine had stopped just because of the sheer amount of noise on the start line at that moment in time and the way everything echoes around the stadium. It was just not like nothing they've experienced before. No,
I always come out of there with a headache, because obviously you've got to have everything turned up on your box next to you absolutely flat out, because the background noise is huge. And I believe this year we're going to be out in the open, so it's not going to be, we will feel every moment of it. So there's no doubt that, as I mentioned earlier, to be able to win in Cardiff, you've got to you come up against elements that you don't ordinarily experience, and so that's why it's sort of extra special. You know, the intensity, the fact that stadium's got steeped terracing. You know, everybody's close. Even if you're in the top tier, you're still not a million miles away. You're kind of on top of the action there. Roof is shut, keeps the noise in the stadium, which adds to the atmosphere. So yeah, I couldn't fully believe that you got the throttle wide open on the start line and you're not sure if your bike's running. You can only probably feel in the tingle of the vibration down the handlebars. So yeah, all those things you've got to come to terms with. So, you know, maybe the more experienced riders possibly have an advantage there. But still, nonetheless, I think all those elements add to Cardiff being that little bit different from everywhere else and a bit extra special.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to it very much this weekend. And of course, SGP2 will be on the Sunday as well. More about the Speedway Grand Prix with Phil Morris in the next section of this podcast. It's a bumper one this week. Another event that's part of the weekend, though, that for many people is the Championship Pairs, which formerly was held at Somerset. But of course, Somerset sadly no longer with us now. But Oxford will be the new location for that on Friday. You need to get your tickets in advance for this one. Get them online. Don't just rock up. There's no cash turnstiles, but a great lineup. Here is the lineup as it stands. Now, it may be subject to change, but this is the best of my knowledge at the time of recording this. It's going to be split into two groups of teams. Group A will consist of Leicester with Nick Morris and Richie Worrell, Edinburgh with Kai Thompson and Josh Pickering, Glasgow with Daniel Hume and Benjamin Basso, Scunthorpe with Ryan Douglas and Simon Lambert, and Birmingham with Justin Sedgman and James Pearson. And then Group B will feature Poole Pirates with Steve Worrell and Danny King, the Plymouth Gladiators, Ben Barker, TBC and Hans Anderson, Berwick Bandits, Chris Harris, and at this moment to be named, Oxford with Scott Nichols and Aaron Summers, and Redcar, Charles Wright and Lewis Kerr. So it's a great lineup, and Always a good fixture, the championship pairs to really kickstart the Cardiff weekend, Kelvin.
Yeah, great to see Oxford back. Such a shame it sat there for 15 years and we didn't see any action, but delighted to hear. I see Scott Nichols from time to time, of course, and he's really enjoying his time there. The pairs, actually, Nigel and I worked on that a few years ago. And it's a terrific night of Speedway, and there's no doubt that it will be hotly contested. As you rightly say, it's a very strong lineup, and some of the pairings, I just briefly looked at them, that meeting's wide open. Difficult for me to really suggest who's going to win. Redcar have got a good looking team, and Paul, of course, with Stevie Worrell and Danny King, obviously they look particularly strong, but there's no doubt that if you can get yourself along there, I think you'll be in for quite a treat.
Yeah, and if you can't make it there, it will be on the British Speedway network as well, so you can watch it wherever you are. And extra points for anybody who gets it on a big screen in Cardiff. You can have a pint from BSN if you achieve that. That would be great. It's a big sporting weekend in Cardiff. There's a lot going on, but undoubtedly the biggest event is going to be at the Principality Stadium for the British Grand Prix. Kelvin, we'll look forward to seeing you and hearing you from the stadium in Cardiff on Saturday, and thanks very much for joining us this week and sharing your thoughts, and here's to an exciting second half of the season for you.
Yeah, very much looking forward to it, and you're very welcome. I've enjoyed it.
Kelvin Tatum, a proper British legend, on the official British Speedway podcast. And in the next part, we build up to the 2022 British Grand Prix. Speaking to the man who's kind of like the ringmaster of the whole circus, Phil Morris, FIM Speedway Grand Prix Race Director, is going to fill us in on how the event's going to look, how the preparations are going, and what we can look forward to this weekend. All to come on No Brakes, No Fear.
No Brakes, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome back. In this part, we're going to get the inside line on what's going to be happening at Cardiff with the FIM Speedway Grand Prix Race Director, Phil Morris. It is really a focal point of the Speedway calendar, of course. Everyone looks forward to heading to Cardiff. It's a celebration of Speedway as much as it is the British round of the World Series. And it's great to have it back, first and foremost. Phil, welcome along. I really appreciate you taking the time, because I can't imagine how busy you must be. You've been on holiday and you've come back, and this is your first day back in the job. You're preparing for Cardiff, but really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us and let us know how things are coming on heading into the big weekend.
Yeah, it is. Thanks for having me, Ian. Yeah, it is very one of the busier events, and the main part of it being busier is because there's not a host club running it. Where in every other event you have, even Warsaw to an extent, they use one of the clubs to come across and sort of help run it. In Cardiff, you're grabbing staff from all sort of different areas of Britain to make an event. So that's the hardest part, is bringing them all together and making the event work.
And the other hard part, of course, is you're building the track from scratch. It's not like you're walking into a stadium that held a meeting on Sunday last week or anything like that. So tell us about how the process works for that. I imagine at the time of recording this, it's Tuesday afternoon. Work probably, I imagine, well underway at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty much a lot of the work that we've done already now, and it's more finishing touches over the next 24 hours and 48 hours. But yeah, it is a bit of a big process, as you can imagine. It's not as easy as just turning up and grading the track and the way to go. So it's built from scratch. Obviously, I think apart from rugby, Speedway is the second most event. I think we are 20 years now, so it's a good stature to say Speedway's done what we've done there. And obviously, being my local city, it's nice to invite all the people around, not just Britain, the world, to come. We've got some nice weather for you, so we've ordered the weather. And we're lucky in a sense we have a roof, because the heat that mid-30s might cause a bit of drying the track out too much and things like that. So yeah, we're lucky we have a roof, so we can use that to our advantage, and also the fans can enjoy their tour and city guide around Cardiff.
And that is the thing. Obviously, the weather is going to be a major factor. There is a weather warning out for it to be unseasonably hot. We're in the middle of a heat wave. I don't think the British Grand Prix has been held under such conditions. I mean, it's very rare for Cardiff to get weather of this level for such a prolonged amount of time anyway. So how is that affecting your plans? Is there anything different with that weather in mind?
No, I think we're lucky we have, again, a modern stadium which can deal with things like this, which is a massive help. Being in a normal, I suppose, any other event, which is an outdoor stadium, could face problems with heat exhaustion and, too much sun for some of the fans. And it's not great for the riders. Sometimes when it's that baking hot, being an ex-rider myself, I know them days where you're just sweating and you just think, wow. Or if you've raced in Australia or New Zealand, that's normal to them. But it was never really comfortable for me, and I'm sure when it's like that. But luckily they'll be underground, sort of in the dungeons, let's say, where the riders are, and it's definitely a lot cooler down there. So
this is the first time we will have had a Grand Prix at Cardiff for obviously a few years, what with everything that's happened in the world. But crucially, the new era, as it's being called, of the Speedway Grand Prix, Discovery Sports Events are now running things. But there is a familiar face in Paul Bellamy, who's involved in promoting the event locally as well. But how is this going to look for fans? Are there going to be any differences? Is there anything new? What's the Grand Prix day going to look like on Saturday?
I think, of course, there will be similarities because the Speedway is a similar sport. I'm sure many people have seen the Grand Prix will see the difference in the pits, this podium, the push-off area. There's a lot of differences there, which will obviously be seen on TV and people that's live at the event. With regards to the fireworks and the sort of opening ceremonies, this is something Discovery may do a little bit different, but the parade might be a little bit different. But I'm sure that it will be a show, whatever. And I know they focus a little bit more on maybe the fan zone, and I think every rider will be there to sign autographs instead of 2 or 3 or maybe 4. So you'll get the chance to see every rider. There'll be perhaps more things happen. I'm not really involved in the fan zone stuff. It's one thing I don't get to see, actually. It's not part of my remit. But from the fans, obviously, experience, I think that they're putting a lot of effort into that. And they're trying to give the fan a fan day experience. And as you know, Cardiff helps with that, being right next to the shops, the bars, the restaurants. You roll out to the stadium and you're into that, so it helps. So I would say you'd have a familiar look, obviously with some let's say upgrades or different ways of approaching it, I would suggest.
And that fan zone, I know you're not involved in it, but that's happening in the usual place. Is it in front of the City Hall in Cardiff?
It is. Yeah, so it's where they have like the Winter Wonderland and everything, if you're from that area. So it's used for quite a big event throughout the year. So yeah, it's a nice area. And again, the only issue might be the sun, being if it's 35 degrees could be a bit too much for a lot of people. But I'm sure everyone will have a good time and they can enjoy having maybe a cheeky drink in the under shade in a beer garden somewhere before they enter the stadium. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. From my side, from a sporting perspective, not a lot changes. You've still got the track's got to be built, and hopefully there's no issues there and everything goes good. And then you've got 16 of the best riders in the world racing off to be on the top of the podium at the end of it. And that's my job, is to make sure that goes good and it looks good for the fans and it looks good for the TV.
And of course, 4 riders wearing the Union Jack this year as well, which I think is the most, is it? Certainly in a long time. I can't think too far back, but to have 4 Brits, obviously 3 regular riders as well in the tournament. Adam Ellis, the wild card for the day, and then 2 excellent track reserves as well in Tom Brennan and Leon Flint, who I'm sure will be itching to get their chance if they get the call. That's going to create, the atmosphere is always electric, even when we just had 1 British rider, but to have 4 and possibly 6 is going to be quite something.
Yeah, I think, it goes to show what they've done. I think they were the only teams to be on the podium in the SON and the SON2, so it shows that, obviously I'm an impartial guy in my job, but it's probably good to see Britain doing well. And with the 3 riders they've got, the senior riders, okay, Adam Ellis I'm sure is going to go there and give it everything, but I would suggest that any of them 3, Woofenden, Bewley and Lambert, on the day could win it. I'm not saying Adam Ellis couldn't, I'm sure he could, but when you've got 3 strong riders that are capable of beating the best in the world, it's good for the fans of the host nation. And the same in any nation we go to. It's always good when the sort of local riders can raise their game and normally do. It's always good in every country. If you go to Sweden, Freddie Lindgren and Oliver Berntsson, they're always well supported. You go to Poland, obviously that's a given, that they support their riders very well. Same in Denmark. Wherever we go. And yeah, so being on my doorstep and being in Britain, I'm sure there will be lots of passionate support for the Brits on show, definitely.
And it's 20 years officially, obviously. It's more than 20 years now, but still that 20th anniversary celebration's happening as well. What's going to be happening with that? I'm obviously not going to spoil any surprises, but is that in the parade lead-up beforehand, and how's that going to work, roughly?
Yeah, I don't want to get involved in too much, but obviously all the winners have been invited, so I know most of them will be there. So it'll be a nice celebration for the people. A lot of the fans have been there for 20 years as well, and it's nice to them to see the guys that's won it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's a nice sort of celebration to make 20 years of Cardiff. And yeah, another bit of extra, because a lot of people, we talk about Tony Rickardson and Greg Hancock, and I know Ryan Sullivan. There's a few guys that's won it in the past. Chris Holder will all be there. And it's nice to, and Jason Crump and all these guys. It's just good to give respect for what they've done and how they've entertained the fans, because at the end of the day, the fans want to see the entertainment, and we try and put on the best show we can. We try and get racing, of course. We try and get what we can to give the show, but the guy that's on the top of the step at the end of the day, I'm sure they feel $1 million, and I'm sure the guy that won it 20, 18, 17 years ago still remembers it to this day.
And then the day after, of course, SGP2, where Tom Brennan will certainly get his chance to ride because he's the British wildcard in that. But again, 16 of the best upcoming under-21 stars in World Speedway, and some names that people will recognise from British Speedway as well involved in that, including Ben Basso, Jonas Knudsen, and of course Tom Brennan, but many, many more as well. So that event is included in the price. If you've got your ticket for the Saturday, you can. There's no seats reserved, is there? You just turn up for that and enjoy.
That's right, and again, having seen how they do it and when they do it, these guys, it could be the pinnacle of their career. Let's look at half of them will go on to be more of a superstar, but this might be where they get to. And I know they are so excited to be involved in an event like this, to be, to ride out in that stadium. I'm lucky to road round the track, and I've not been in the event, but these under-21 guys will be absolutely buzzing about it. And I can imagine that this could, they'll just be sleepless nights the night before. And of course, they may override because they want to put on a show. But yeah, I think the general thing I like to look at, some of the tickets you can get for around about £20-25, and you can watch the SGP and an SGP2. So I know the Cardiff hotels might cost a bit of money, but you can't complain about value for money for what you get, I think, for the two events on the 2 days. So I hope they both go off great, and I hope we have some great action for everybody. And we're all ready to put on a show for you, and there'll be hundreds of staff there, which are a big part of it, all the track flagmen, the guys who put the fuel in the bike. There's hundreds of people there, and they can't be forgotten because they come every year to Cardiff and really put on a good show behind the scenes to make it all work, because if the bottom of the pyramid doesn't work, the top of it doesn't work. So yeah, it's really good that all the helpers come along from different tracks around the country to help out as well.
Well, let's hear from one of the riders who will be taking part in SGP2. We heard from Tom Brennan last week. Let's hear from his teammate, Benjamin Basso at Glasgow, who will also be lining up in SGP2. Now, he's a regular member of the SGP2 circuit and will be riding in all of the rounds. And he's been speaking about this occasion, heading to Cardiff with Phil Lanning.
Going into the SGP2 at Cardiff is something very special. Probably the biggest crowd you've ridden in front of as well.
Definitely, and I've been watching so many races from Cardiff, especially the one with Bomber where he passes Greg Hancock, and the crowd just go wild, and so it's definitely a special place to come Cardiff, because the crowd, and the atmosphere on the stadium, because it's so packed, it's just amazing. So yeah, I can't wait to go there.
what would it mean to you to win it? Because obviously in front of that stadium, I mean, obviously you've got your compatriot Jonas Knudsen, who's going very well.
Yeah.
Your teammate Tom Brennan is flying at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's shaping up to be. Everyone's talking about the British Grand Prix on Saturday, but hey, the SGP2 is going to be something special as well.
Most definitely, and you got a lot of young guns that just want to prove themselves, like myself. Just go out there and show them that we can actually also ride speedways. So I think there's definitely going to be some good racing and some passes as well in the SGP2 because we are young and we are hungry.
Denmark are in pretty good shape. I mean, you didn't get the result you wanted in Voyens. I know that hurt you badly in front of your own fans, and I'm sure the guys in the senior the next day would have said the same. Yeah. But the prospects are looking very good. I mean, yourself and Eunice, and you've got such a good run of riders coming around you.
Yeah, definitely. Are we talking about the Super League or the Sun?
No, we're talking about in the SON and Denmark as a whole, just going
and
forward.
It was a shame that day that maybe Kevin, he got it in the end, but it was a shame that Jonas just have a completely off day. It happens to all of us, and you can't really blame him, when your things are just not working, it's just an off day and it happens to all of us. So I'm not really blaming anyone, for not making any result at Voyens. It could have been me, so I'm just, when I'm looking back at it, I'm just appreciative that, I got a good result myself and we actually didn't finish last. So, yeah, that's it. We got to move on.
As Benjamin Basso of Glasgow and Peterborough and also of SGP2, one of the riders who'll be racing on Sunday. Get yourself down to the Principality Stadium for some extra speedway if you're still hanging around, because it's free to get in if you've got your ticket for the Saturday and unreserved seating, so you just go wherever you can get. One of three riders who are well known in British Speedway. Tom Brennan, of course, is the British wildcard, so he'll be racing. And also Jonas Knudsen of the Berwick Bandits also is going to be involved in that as well. Those are the three riders that you'll know from British Speedway. But 16 of the best up-and-coming racers from around Europe and the world are going to be battling out in round 2 of SGP2 at Cardiff on the Sunday. Phil Morris, the SGP Race Director, is still with us, and you were talking earlier about the help that you get from around the tracks, and it's a good point to make, isn't it, that really all of the clubs, or many of the clubs from British Speedway, supply personnel, whether that's flag marshals or start marshals or timekeepers or wherever. They come from all over to be part of this event.
Yeah, it's really good because obviously the ACU, which is a governing body, and Speedway Control Board, they sort of deal with that, which is Tony Steele helps organise it. There's still quite a few Swindon staff that come along, which help a lot, and pretty much a lot. I would suggest a third of the clubs in the UK are probably represented there some way or somehow, whether it's a guy holding the red flag, the guy putting some fuel in the bike, the guy doing machine examination. There's a lot of people that really put a lot of effort in. You're looking hundreds of people nearly, 200 people that don't get the limelight maybe. Of course, my job, I'm sort of at the top of the pyramid, but I can promise you it's like anything. If every cog of the wheel doesn't turn, it all doesn't turn. So even if it's important that the guy that puts the fuel in the bike is as important as anyone else. So yeah, we really appreciate it. And I thank all the clubs for helping provide that, because I'm sure it's a big day for these guys and ladies that come and help. There's a flag marshal or anything, but yeah, it's a good thing for British Speedway that everybody chips in and comes together on this event, because we're not a club like Voyens, Morlilla, Torren, Roslav that have all these people. We have to bring them in and sort of select a few. So yeah, it's a nice. I know it's a nice feeling for these guys, because I was the clerk of the course at Cardiff when I finished racing, so I saw and the clerk of the course we have is from Swindon, Michael Hunt, and he's obviously doesn't have a club at the moment, but hopefully Swindon come back and he does a good job as well as the top of the ACU pyramid.
That's brilliant. And who's the referee this week?
The referee is from Denmark, Jesper Steenstoft, one of our safe pair of hands normally, so hopefully we'll have no issues there. And so we're really looking forward to it. We've got the president of the FIM coming, George Viegas. He visit some of the events, so it's good to have him there, to see that Speedway can sort of compete with MotoGP and MXGP and other big events. So we want to put on the best show for him as well as the fans and all the people watching.
Brilliant stuff. Well, look, thanks a lot for setting the scene for us, Phil, and all the best to you as well, because you have more of a starring role yourself these days, I notice, with having to announce the gate picks and everything.
Yeah, it's not something I'm really that bothered with. Obviously I'm getting more screen time than that now, but that's never something that worries me. I want to get the show done in the right job for the riders, the fans and the TV, and if everyone's happy at the end of the day, then I'm happy.
Phil Morris, thank you very much for joining us on No Breaks, No Fear, and all the best for the weekend, of course. And if you are watching the British Grand Prix, you'll be seeing Phil's work in action, because his job is just to make sure it all runs smoothly on the track. And another podcast I do, incidentally, called Humans of Speedway. It's probably a year or so ago now, I had a chat with Phil. So if you want to know more about his role, and I know one or two people have sent me questions about various ins and outs of what happens during a meeting, then all of those questions are answered on there. So if you want to find out more about how the preparation goes and the sort of things that need to be checked in the run up to the meeting, and how the meeting runs and how they make it run like clockwork, all the details are in that. So check out Humans of Speedway, and then there's loads of episodes in there, but there's certainly one with Phil Morris, a whole hour of him talking about stuff. So that's one to check out. Okay, here's the fixtures for the upcoming week then. It is a big week ahead. And, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, I can tell you that tonight, in that case, it's Birmingham versus Berwick, Poole versus Plymouth in the Championship Jubilee League South. Poole have already won the Southern Group, so it'll be Poole, Glasgow and Leicester battling it out in the final of the Jubilee League. And then in the National League, it's the Oxford Chargers versus the Bellevue Colts. Thursday, in the Premiership, it's the Ipswich Witches versus the Kings Lynn Stars. Friday, at Oxford, it's the Championship Pairs. Big one that. 7:30 the start time. Got to get your tickets in advance for that one. The weather's going to be cracking. Got some amazing riders on show. The best of the Championship battling it out. Set yourself up nicely for your trip to Cardiff. And then it's the big day on Saturday, the British Grand Prix. Cardiff, 5 o'clock, the first race. It's going to be an amazing evening of racing, that's for sure. And of course, if you're not able to make it in person to Cardiff, it will be on Eurosport 2 and Discovery Plus. And then on Sunday, also on Discovery Plus, back to Cardiff for the World Under-21 round, the SGP 2. That gets underway at 1 p.m. Then it's back to domestic action with Peterborough Panthers versus the Sheffield Tigers on Monday at 7:30. And then next Tuesday, it will be the Plymouth Gladiators versus the Redcar Bears. And that will bring us to our next episode. This time next week, next Wednesday, the next episode will be arriving, and we'll be reflecting on everything that happened at Cardiff, and probably building up as well to the Premiership Pairs Round 5, which will be at Sheffield on August the 18th. So all that to look forward to next week. But if you are heading to Cardiff and or Oxford or any other Speedway meeting through the course of this week, have a safe journey. We'll look forward to seeing you there. Here's to a great weekend of Speedway racing. And it's been a long time coming when you think about it. 3 years since we had that last one in 2019. Enjoy it. Enjoy the sunshine. Enjoy the racing. Most importantly, just have a fantastic weekend. And we'll be back with you to review it all next week here on No Breaks, No Fear.
No Breaks, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Sports Social Podcast Network.